have to specify all those little greedy stuff that you have to specify when you're using Kubernetes manifests themselves, right? Hello there, and thank you for joining me on this Thursday afternoon, or whenever you're watching this. My name is Anais, I'm a developer evangelist at CodeFresh, and this is my YouTube channel where I'm currently doing 100 days of Kubernetes, where I aim to learn something new related to Kubernetes across 100 days, and share it with you here right on my channel for you to either follow along or pickpocket different videos depending what you're most interested in. Now, today we're going to look at what was my very first interaction with Kubernetes? How did I actually get started? And explore the tool that facilitated basically my very first interaction. So today we're going to look at Helm, specifically Helm Charts. Now, there's a bit of a backstory on how I got started. Imagine myself about 6 months ago being tasked with writing a blog post about Helm hooks. Now, imagine 6 months younger me, not knowing much about Docker, not knowing much about Kubernetes, and especially not knowing much about any open source tool that can be used to make your lives easier using Kubernetes. So I was Googling what a Helm chart, okay? And I tried to get started with it, and there was a lot of confusion that kind of resolved itself over the past months. But it took some time. So I really hope I can spare you some of that confusion and me sharing what I've learned in this quick video and in following videos. In this video, we're gonna look at the basics on how you can set up Helm charts, what are Helm charts, what is the structure of a Helm chart, and basic commands. And in the next videos, we're gonna look at how you can manipulate your own Helm charts. I'm gonna be using this book. This just got published by some of the Helm core maintainers. I'm really excited to read that. I just read the first chapter so far. Really excited on that. Also, I'm not sponsored, but so let's get started. Okay, I set up here an example chart that I'm kind of going to base the first explanation on, since I think it's a lot easier to just explain it based on an example so you actually know what I'm talking about, and it's not too abstract. So I'm here in this Helm directory, and as you can see here, I have another directory called charts. So let's take a look at this charts directory. Within here, I have an example chart that I set up. So we're going to move over to the example chart, and then let's take a look at that. We're right now here, I just opened that up in my Visual Studio Code, and I have here my example chart, right? So within the example chart, I have another charts folder, and then I have my templates. And then I probably created this one by accident maybe. Anyway, so as you can see here, I have a chart.yaml file, and then I have a values.yaml file. Now the values.yaml file is probably one of your most important files, to be honest. And then I have here a templates folder. Now the templates folder actually specifies my Kubernetes manifests. And so as you can see here, I have my templates for different manifests for my service, for my ingress, for my deployment, and so on, depending on what I'm using. Either of those will be used. I can also set up new ones. This is just an example chart that comes with a command that I'm going to show you in a second. And then here's some specification on your Helm chart itself, what kind of version it is, and some more stuff, and it's all nicely explained, so you can have a read of that if you feel like it. And then I have here a values YAML file. Now the values YAML file specifies the values that are going to be used for my templates. And together the templates and the values are my Helm chart. They comprise together my Helm chart itself, which we're going to also see in a second. So as you can see here, I have a tag called image. Within the image, I have a repository and then pull policy. And I could also specify further, like in my tag for the image or other stuff. But that basically specifies the image that will be used to deploy on my cluster, to deploy on my, as a running pod on my cluster, the containers that I want to be running within a pod, within my cluster, and so on. Now I have like full policy of that image. If I can specify any pull secrets, any other information that could be used for that specific deployment. I can also, as you you can see, I can specify the service. Do I want to use class IP? Do I want to use load balancer? And so on. Focus on me. Okay. No, it's back focus. Anyway, so, and then over here, I have some more resources. And where is it? I can specify an ingress. No, right now it's not enabled, it's at false, but I could also just easily set up an ingress by modifying the values here. Now, then we have our templates. So looking at the templates, you're gonna be like, wow, oh my god, look at this, so confusing, right? That was my initial reaction when I saw it. I was like, what the heck is going on here? So let me walk you through what is going on here. It's really nothing, it's not more complicated than what we looked at before, so don't worry about that. It's really just, it's like, imagine like a normal deployment file. It's specified differently, the values are specified differently. So if you look, for example, at the image tag, as an example, yeah? It's going to go first into values, into our values file, then within the image tag, the repository tag. Yeah? And it's going to go into the values and the image tag and the tag. And it basically just goes into values, into the values file. And then we have here our values, and it's going to go into image, and it's going to go into repository. And then it will, over here in the deployment, it will just populate those. So how do I know what's actually happening? Well, let's go back to our terminal here. Okay, so I created this chart simply by saying, well, at the beginning, what I like to do is having a repository that's called charts. So whether that chart is specific to an application or not, I like to have a repository called charts because I know they're all my Helm charts and it's nicely organized. Anyway, so within this repository called charts, what I have now is my example chart, and I created it simply by Helm create and then example chart, in this case, chart, yeah? So now you might wonder, okay, Anais, you have a command here, Helm something. If you look for Helm version, in this case, if I look for Helm version, I have version 3.5.0. Now, if you're familiar with Helm, you might have looked at Helm 2 and you're like, Anais, why are you using Helm? Ew, right? Well, so Helm 3 is my only interaction with Helm. I've never used in any way Helm 2. And everything that I read about the comparison between Helm 2 and Helm 3 is completely different. There's no tiller, there's no setup, right? It's Helm 3 is really straightforward. Just to mention it, I have further notes in my public Notion page, so you can have a look at that if you're concerned about the difference or if you want to further explore the difference. But Helm itself, Helm 3, is really nice to use, so I suggest you to try it out. Anyway, so I installed Helm here on my command line. I have it accessible, as you can see. It knows what Helm is. And I also link below different installation options that you can use to install your Helm chart, to install Helm, to use Helm charts, and so on. And basically, I have my kubectl config. I'm currently at my Docker desktop cluster. So I'm connected to a cluster. Those are the two prerequisites that you need to follow along now. Now you do a Helm create and you can say example chart, and then you have exactly the chart that I just created and it just showed you. Now we want to deploy that chart, right? So we can say Helm, and then in this case install, and then dry run. Is this gonna, wait, let me check the command. Okay, I found a command. So what we're going to do, Helm install and then dry run debug example chart, and then we say this is our example chart. Now we can also say, we can name the chart anything else. We can name it test chart, test example, well, let's say just test chart. And then we can install that as well. So in this case, we're not installing it. We're just making sure that what we're going to install is actually what we want to install. So as you can see here, it displayed a bunch of rah. Anyway, this rah is actually, it's all of our Kubernetes manifests that will be installed. So in this case, you can see there are hooks, but we don't want to pay too much attention right now on Helm hooks. There's one within it anyway. So here we can see we have different Kubernetes manifests. We have our service. Then we have, as you can see here, here's our cluster IP and port 80, like we specified within our values YAML file. And then we have our deployment resource and replica set 1. And it's also specifying basically the port. And then at the end, it tells us what commands we should run to access that container, to basically access the port that our container runs on. Now, this is the Kubernetes manifest that will be installed, and it's basically taking the templates and the values and smashes it together like a nice salad into our Kubernetes manifests. And those we can give now to our Kubernetes cluster. So our Kubernetes cluster knows those manifests. It won't know the from the Helm chart. It'll know these beautiful Kubernetes manifests. So once we're happy with them, we can go ahead and say Helm install. And then we want to say test chart, and it's the example chart that we set up. And we can just go ahead and install it. Now it's deployed. We can have a look at our kubectl get all within the namespace default. Let's have a look at that. Okay, we have to spec kubectl. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a service that just got set up, the test chart, example chart. This is the one we just set up. We have our deployment, we have a replica set running, and we have a pod running. Now, all of them seem to be running correctly. Now, let's go ahead and actually follow these commands to access our running application. Okay, so now we can go ahead and open up port 8080 on localhost. Localhost 8080. And as you can see here, we have Nginx running on that port now. So this has just been deployed through our Helm chart. We didn't use any Kubernetes manifest. It was really straightforward. You didn't have to specify your deployments. You didn't have to specify all those little greedy stuff that you have to specify when you're using Kubernetes manifests themselves, right? When you use deployments themselves and so on. Instead, you just go ahead and you specify the Helm chart that you want to deploy, and then you install it. And then you can go ahead and say Helm list, and you see the charts that you have right now. So in this case, we have this is one. We have our test chart here, and we have a deployed, and it's this version, so we can see all of that. Now, if you were to use Helm, I would highly recommend it to beginners. I would highly recommend it to people who have to deploy complex resources. It makes it super easy for deployments. In most of my Codefish demos, I'm using Helm charts because I think it's far more accessible than actually referring to Kubernetes manifests, and it's far easier for people to replicate it because I just have to tell people what values to change, so it makes it pretty straightforward, right? It was not good getting started with Helm when I didn't even know Kubernetes and I want to learn Kubernetes, and then interacting with the pure YAML files was quite scary. So if you're just getting started with Kubernetes, I highly suggest you to use pure YAML files and then eventually transition to Helm. That's my personal opinion from my experience over the past month. And then once you are aware of what those resources are, what they do, switch back to Helm, or then use Helm more extensively. And now you might wonder, how can you use Helm now? What can you do with it now? Well, if you would use it in for an actual running application, and we will look at those in the next videos, you would pack it up nicely into a Helm chart, and then you can, for example, in this case, I could go ahead and push this Helm chart to a Git repository, right? And then everybody who has access to my Git repository has access to my Helm chart. And that makes Helm charts extremely shareable, reproducible, it's nicely version controlled and so on. Whereas if you use Kubernetes, well, If you use, if you use Kubernetes manifest, you might, for example, if you just want to change the environment variables, you would have to maybe change a lot more. Now, you shouldn't bake any environment variables into your Kubernetes manifest anyway, but just to make a point, Helm charts are really easy, reproducible across environments, across users, and so on, and shareable. And you would have it in a Helm registry. So similar to how you have Docker Hub, you could push your Helm chart to a Helm registry, similar, where other people can access it and where you can easily access it remotely. And we will also look at those in the future. If you want to get started with Helm, explore it further, or whatever you're interested in, I linked some resources on my public Notion page. So this is my public Notion page. You can go to 100 Days of Kubernetes, where I have all of my public notes, if you prefer notes instead of the videos. And within here, I have my Helm notes. So these are going to be a future more based on a book. Here's also an overview of the different that I found of the different files that you have within your Helm chart. Then I have the example that I just did. And then I have another example, another exercise that you could do, where you could further explore the Helm Artifact Hub that shows you basically where you can search for any, let's say MySQL. You can search for different charts, but don't use just any charts. Please be careful with what you actually run and deploy on your machine. This is just one exercise. And then here are more awesome Helm resources from these amazing open source maintainers who made these, with a bunch of amazing links that you can also check out, all linked on the Notion page, link below. Now this is it for today. I hope it was useful. If it was, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for upcoming videos. I would highly appreciate your support. Also, if you watched this far, it must be that you're serious about learning DevOps, specifically Kubernetes. I have a weekly DevOps newsletter where I send out 3 online learning resources from across the week that I came across from within the community and so on, right to your inbox. So maybe subscribe below. Anyway, I hope to see you next time. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.